Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine. We review the very latest in streaming, video on demand, and theatrical horror movies. Yes, and some that do day and date. We'll talk about that. Each week, my co-hosts Christopher G. Moore and Brian W. Smith and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. I will say it correctly one of these days. Tonight, we are reviewing Halloween Ends, arguably one of the most anticipated horror films of the year. We'll see how that ended up. All right. Joining me this week is my co-host, Christopher G. Moore, award-winning filmmaker. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm at a point now where sometimes it's good that people end things. I'll just say that much without burying the lead, but yeah.
I think you may have anyway. All right. Also joining us is award-winning screenwriter Brian W. Smith. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing? Got my little Michael Myers knife here, just in case he decides he wants to show up again somehow.
Yep. You got a little plate. Is that a plate? What is that behind you?
Oh, it's a courtesy. They're not. I don't think they're a sponsor. It's a courtesy of Trick or Treat Studios' little Halloween decorations. I finally opened it. I've had it like 2 years from now, and for this little occasion. So.
And if you count the minutes of a review, it's more. Michael Myers is more in this review than he was in this movie.
Oh, nice.
And Laurie Strode as well.
Well, Laurie Strode was in more of it, but we'll get there. All right, what we're going to do?
She made some pie. She baked a pie.
She did, and she got concerned.
Burnt a pie.
Yeah.
And walked around and watched people. What we're going to do is give you our first impressions of this movie. That will be spoiler-free. Then we're going to jump into a discussion about it, and we will get into spoilers there. Then we'll wrap things up with our score, 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. There's going to be some really weird choices for that, I am certain. For Halloween Ends. All right. Well, we hope you enjoy this review and many others that we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend buttons. Each little click will help. And of course, it will help us reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. And only you can do that. Only you can help. We can't do it. They'll yell at us. So only you can help us reach that goal. All right, let's take a look at the card and get into things. Boom. Halloween Ends. 2022 Universal and Blumhouse getting together to do this. Available in theaters and streaming on Peacock beginning October 14th, day and date. That should be a discussion in and of itself. Synopsis is the saga of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode comes to a spine-chilling climax in this final installment of this trilogy. Directed by David Gordon Green, written by Paul Brad Logan, Chris Bernier, Danny McBride, and David Gordon Green, based on the characters created by John Carpenter and Debra Hill. The cast includes Jamie Lee Curtis, Andi Matichak, James, Jude, Courtney, Rohan, Campbell, Will Patton, and Kyle Richards. Yes, Halloween Ends. All right, let's get into our first impressions. Brian W. Smith, you're up first. What did you think, sir?
My first impression, in the theater, I saw it in the theater.
Nice.
And as the credits rolled, my first impression was, it's not terrible. Those are literally my words. And if they want to quote me, feel free, Brian Smith, it's not terrible. And then the more I thought about it, I just saw it the other night, the more I thought about it, the script, and I could see the flaws for what they were. It had some good points, but, mostly the flaws were showing themselves in terms of like structure and some of the character arcs, and there's a little bit of choppy editing, and I just thought ultimately some lazy characterizations. We'll get into that when we're in spoilers, but that was my initial impression. But it is a movie. It's made well. It's competently made and performed. I thought Rohan Campbell as Corey did a good job. I think I didn't want to be swayed by the early buzz because a lot of people were sort of complaining about his character and complaining about what he had to do in the film. And I thought he did a really good job in the start. I think a lot of the issues, all the performances were fine and on a technical level, and it was fine. But I think really it's down to the script, and there's 4 people on this who...
Two pairs, to be fair. So
yeah, 2 pairs, I guess, who couldn't seem to really agree on some things. And as writers ourselves, I'm sure we can point out those issues. But Yeah, that was my first impression. I'll definitely watch it when I'm hoping there's a director's cut, because I know there's more to this. I feel like, we just saw, there's Terrifier out there that's like 2.5 hours. If I think this should have been the 2.5 hour movie, because I feel like there's more to it to really make it feel like a true ending. But it's an ending, and we'll see what they do from here on out. I have my theories on that too. We'll get into that.
Yeah, still was an hour and 51 minutes, so it still clocked in pretty long.
It felt slight. It felt like there was something missing. Like there was a second act missing. I don't know. Something was missing.
There was something missing. A plot. All right, Christopher G. Moore. No, there was a plot. We'll discuss it. What did you think of Halloween Ends?
Yeah, it should have been called Halloween Missing. You know what? I really love the 2018 Halloween. I love that film a lot. But I think what they've done with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, I think they get kind of lost in these other ideas and themes. Like Halloween Kills, it was all about mob mentality and stuff like that. In this one, it's all about trauma and how people react to it after the fact, even how people blame you. And that's interesting. But, one of my biggest issues, this trilogy should be more so about Laurie Strode than anything else. They basically benched her for a lot of Halloween Kills, and they still kind of bench her for parts of this, even though it's more of her arc, which I think is kind of sad, And then they have this separate movie element with the Corey, which feels like Heathers for a new generation, that would have worked fine as its own movie. But by the end of it, doesn't work as well with everything else. And it feels like there's all these ideas in this soup that doesn't really work together. And it kind of waters down, what's the whole point of this arc, I mean, I kind of like the way it ends, because we finally get that moment between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. But it keeps getting lost in all these different areas, and it even kind of pulls back some of the kill stuff, which was much more bigger in like the first film, or even parts of the second film. They even kind of don't even show some of the kill stuff, and that's, I don't know about you guys. That's what I watch a lot of slash films is for that. So yeah, I'm like Brian. I don't hate this film. It as much as I hated parts of Halloween Kills, I hate this less, but it's still a mess of a movie, and I can understand why people are all kind of divided about it. But it feels like it was written by 4 different people, everybody having their own ideas thrown in together, because it doesn't flow. You go off on these side stories that don't really connect as much, and then there's character moments like, what? Why would they do that? There was and so yeah, I think it's kind of it kind of adds it kind of makes me wonder why we even went through 2 other films. It should have just ended with the first
one. Yes,
yeah, because it feels like, and it also makes me kind of worry that David Gordon Green is going to do like an Exorcist trilogy, because if he does the same thing with that's going to be a mess. So but yeah, I have issues with this film.
Yeah, this movie is definitely will put you on the fence as we watch it, because
on the fence, literally, in one scene.
Yeah, literally funny. It's bold in some ways, right? Because it definitely took a path that I did not expect, and I kind of like that in concept. But I'm not necessarily sure I really appreciated I appreciated at the time, that it was happening. I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but I don't know what I got out of it, right? I don't know what the point of it was, and I don't know how it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense as a whole when it was over. And it felt, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else got Friday the 13th Part 5 vibes out of it, but I got a little bit of that. Mixed with like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman kind of thing happening. I don't know if you guys saw that movie a long time ago. But, so there's this weird element that for a good portion of the film kind of sidelines both Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, which is a pretty ballsy thing to do for a Halloween film. Outside of what Halloween 3 did back in the 80s, right? Which was even ballsier, I suppose. Kind of missed that level of ballsiness. It could have went there and really shook us up, right? But at the same time, I was entertained. I was curious. You know, it caught my attention and kept me engrossed in what was happening. I wanted to find out, you know, this weird relationship that was going on outside of this Strode family that we were awkwardly thrust into, because the beginning kind of threw me. I was like, what are we watching? What is this? I get how it's tied into it, but why? It all pans out, but at the same time, it made for really strange characters and really strange relationships that I wasn't really sure if I bought those relationships. But like you said, at the end, it's like, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it much more than Kills. But I don't know if I really liked it. It's so weird, right?
Well, here's my thing. Can you imagine if they did a Halloween Begins, like a next film, and if they did the Corey storyline?
Would have made more sense.
To where we had that kind of mental break, and then he became like the new Michael Myers.
Right.
That would have made for an interesting film, right?
I feel like he should have been introduced in 2018, and then his arc probably would. If they're going to follow, like,
that would have made more sense.
Yeah.
If they're going to follow the prequel mentality, you know, the structure, then introduce him early. He should have maybe been Cameron, or just a side character that was picked on, and then progressively got bigger as this film, came about.
Yeah, even if he was in the first one, right? Just for a little bit.
Yeah, they're just sort of like shoehorning in this, it's basically Christine they're doing. And I think there was even like the ending of part 4, the original part 4, there was that hint that maybe the niece, his niece would become like an apprentice or something. There were all these like theories and stuff. And I'm sure there's like plenty of script. I read those, the Taking Shape books, and there's like plenty of scripts that have been floating around. So I'm sure they're cherry picking ideas, from all of those, because it's they can. And another theory I have is, this might be premature, but I mean, there's that whole 4-year gap. So it kind of opens up, the anthology idea, if they wanted to just go back and show how he got weak. I have a feeling he'll come back, and we know how it ends, but I think they can do the orphan first kill thing. And
oh no, yes, they could
have plenty of, they can either focus on, Haddonfield, they go Russellville. They can really, it opens it up. I think if they want to remake Halloween 3, they can do that now. As a fan, I'm like, do what you want. I've already seen the ending of this one, so I'm okay. I'm good. It's not going to be like a contrived version of, he's possessing the the shredder or whatever. I don't know. I think it'll just,
we should state real quick we're in spoilers.
Spoilers. Sorry. Yeah.
Those who didn't realize that.
Yeah. I think it can open it up to more stories in between, because there's a lot of little threads that they were throwing in there, but because he wasn't too weak to kill Karen. And we didn't talk about off-screen deaths. We never saw the house get demolished. That's a big character of the Halloween series. So there's a whole story there. There's more stories there. I don't necessarily want to write them, but hey, Blumhouse, if you're paying.
I mean, to be fair, I know some people aren't really satisfied with it, but to me, it had a satisfying ending to Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. We had a decisive ending.
Right. Well, I mean, as someone who was in the theater during H2O, I feel like I'm still coming down from the high from that. Nice. that was a very decisive ending, and so this is just sort of, I don't know, they sort of took the fun out of the series and the suspense and the scare. So it's just sort of like the brutality is mostly what reigns, and yeah, the fight was what it was, but I was just like, I didn't feel anything, and
well, yeah, and
journey.
Well, and I mean, it makes me kind of, because I know Jamie Lee Curtis has like did all these interviews and stuff where she's gotten emotional about this character and she loves this character, but I feel like these two other movies kind of were a little bit of a disservice to her character, I mean, and then to go to this third one, because the second one we benched, and the third one we totally benched the house, which is such an iconic part of it. Can you imagine if the ending had happened, like they were about to demolish it, and it gets demolished in the process of fighting with Michael Myers? There could have been a much more. I mean, even though I love the final fight, because we finally But again, the H2O, we kind of seen that before. But I mean, the main thing is we actually get to see her kill, or supposedly kill him.
Like she gets to do it, and we get to see it, and there's no
Yeah.
cutaway, and it's
There's
pretty
no
gross.
cutaway. Yeah. And it's like, cutting neck, and all that stuff. But
and he still tries to come back.
Yeah, but then you have those moments like it doesn't really, because I mean, it definitely takes a lot of big swings, from the very beginning when you have a kid die out of the blue, and then or just in the moment where you think Laurie Strode is going to kill herself, and I was like, I don't know how this ends, but are they going to do that?
It just didn't make sense in the way she did. I don't unless I have to hear it again and see it. Did she hear breathing? Did she know? Was she just instinctively, or was it just a plot? Was it just the
it felt like a plot. It felt like
it
felt like plot armor, right?
It did,
right?
And so, yeah, it's like, I mean, how did she know? But
right, if there was just some, because that's what's missing from these films is the idea. Well, there's one shot of maybe her possibly seeing him, watching her from the corner from the corner of her eye. But if there was something like that, I guess she knew he was around, or but even if she heard something or definitely saw something and played it off and then went up and did the call, I think that would have keyed us in a little bit.
Yeah,
but sort of like she's putting. I know the call would bring her daughter, but I don't know. It just felt.
Weird, right?
It's almost like she has the same supernatural powers that Michael Myers does.
Right. Like I just know, I know you're there.
Yeah, because then later on she like shows up in a chair and then she's gone, and she's like, was she real?
I don't know if she was there. I feel like that was him. That was his mind breaking.
His mind breaking.
Or possibly was it Myers getting in his mind, because we always wondered why he went after her, and there's all these theories out there. Maybe that's part of it. It's just he creates a scenario in his mind and he has to kill to function. I don't know, but I think that scene was meant to, because there was a either that or it was a really bad edit, because it's just like she goes into like, stay away from my granddaughter, like she's like, stay away, like there's something where she just loses it, and I'm like, that's a little out of character, and then all of a sudden she's gone. So I think maybe she wasn't. I feel like that's my theory, that she wasn't really there, and that was just him. But it's interesting that he's laying in the spot where the kid died.
Well, but again, there's like weird moments like that. There's a weird moment where the kid's father where he's playing pool and he has this whole monologue, and it feels like a scripted moment as opposed to a real moment, and that's the problem. That's the problem I think I have with this. That now it kind of, like I mentioned earlier, it feels like, they're working so hard to have the whole trauma thing in here, how trauma can affect you and maybe make you turn and not be the same person you were. And they work so hard that you see how the magic trick is done, and it doesn't make it magic anymore. And that's why I feel like I felt very disconnected, because I felt more connected with her. Well, I felt more connected with her in the first film. You feel her because she's been through all this trauma, but she's ready for him. And so by that end, you're like, yeah. And even when they find out, like they're going to the fire, like, oh, you feel her being upset. This one, I really didn't. I didn't even feel the connection she had with the sheriff guy. I didn't really feel any of that.
Right.
So I felt as cold as Michael Myers by the end of this. And, and then, but then it's like, it's a movie. It's less about them. It's more about the two young kids, having the little Heathers moment,
Yeah, they definitely took over the storyline. What did we think of the relationship between Corey and Michael Myers? I mean, did we buy that? Did we buy that this would be a thing?
I didn't quite get it, or I don't think Corey was enough of a developed character to really invest the time in. And you mentioned, Chris, the coldness that you almost feel like. I started wondering, I put that in my notes, if the film was intentionally to make us feel as cold as Corey and Michael, because I felt really nothing for any of the characters, including our heroes. I was just sort of watching it as if I was just, a passenger in my own body, just watching it in the theater, but not really invested in. And it, like all the victims are terrible people. There's no nuance. If you're going to make them, interesting villains, there's maybe that one character that's like, why are you bothering him? But still, she was, guilty by association, so she wasn't really a character. I don't even know her name, but by the end of it, I just felt like I felt disconnect, like you said, a disconnect to just about everything that was going on. I don't know if that was the intention, or it's just the writing was just not.
Maybe it could, and I think this is my problem with a lot of like horror movies, especially slashers. You know, when you go back to the original Halloween, you cared about all the characters. Yeah, some of them might be a little assholeish at times, but they were characters that seem like real human caring people. And this one, the majority of characters are assholes, so you don't really care. Like the whole
town.
Bullies. Yeah, everybody's like, even the little kid, you kind of like, okay, well, he got what he deserved because he was a little bit of a dick, you know. And so like the majority of characters, you don't, you know, even his mom and all these different people are not really nice people, so you don't really care about anybody, you know.
So
and
is that maybe what it is, that we're invited to not care about them? Because I didn't care about the kid. I really did, and I, obviously I'm not that type of person in real life, but I mean, like, I just didn't care about the character as he was portrayed, and I think they kept layering that on with all the other characters, especially the doctor and his nurse, his assistant. It was like living in a Beverly Hills mansion that just didn't seem like a Haddonfield residence. I don't know. It was just
well, even the second film, we cared about, you know, the characters, whether it's the gay couple or the old couple. You know, with the woman shows back up in this one, you know, we thought he was dead. So,
which was nice to see, but yeah, I didn't feel it. You know, Julian's back, but Lindsay's back, and she doesn't get anything to do.
Even little kid from the first one, which is so funny. He's
Julian, yeah.
You know, everybody's somber. It's like
I know, yeah. Like I felt not, because Michael. The whole thing with Halloween is that Michael was always the other. He was the thing outside that was trying to get in, and we would identify with the characters, whether they were bad or not. But there was always that sort of human element of they feel creeped out, so we feel creeped out. And I think really probably since the Rob Zombie films, and they're just sort of borrowing from that element. It's like we're always watching it from the other end and watching it from his side, and only vaguely getting to know the characters. And so you don't feel anything. You don't feel that movie magic of being sort of engaged with the potential victims. They're just assholes who just they're going to get killed.
And by that, I was going to say, with that, it loses all that tension, right?
There's no tension.
You're never white knuckled at all. So,
like, the brutality is not. That's not Michael. Like some of the deaths that especially with Halloween Kills, I feel like you watch something like it's more grindhousey, like a Terrifier 2. Sorry to keep comparing it, but I feel like that's a little more legit in terms of what it's trying to do with its effect and gore. Here, it almost feels like Halloween is like borrowing from that and trying to catch up from that sort of style that's out there. But the tongue, and I know that it's not necessarily technically Michael, but it's a Corey character doing it. But the tongue scene and all the brutality and stuff like that never really truly feels like Michael or the essence of it.
And I'll say that the tongue scene was not really good effects.
It was
it looked like a fake head you'd buy at like Halloween store.
It was just I mean, it was a memorable scene, but it didn't.
Yeah, it's that kind of like and then they had the little tongue,
That was funny, but
yeah, I kind of like that, but I think the more I think about it, it's almost like I think that I get maybe their point, Brian, is that this whole town is traumatized by the whole Michael Myers thing, so everybody's become an asshole because of it, and so the only way that they can sort of get rid of this curse of Michael Myers, is to kill him. Everybody kill him and throw him into like a grinder,
I think the best way to get over that is to move out of that town. I mean, he was essentially, from what I understand, he was deemed missing for quite a while, and people just went about their business. But that town should be a ghost town, really. I mean, you think they would just nuke it from orbit? I don't know.
Well, and Corey just happened to fall over the bridge, the one part of town where Michael Myers is.
Plot armor. We got plot armor here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why I do feel that if they haven't thought of it, I'm sure they have, but there's that whole window of 4 years where maybe we'll get to see the house demolished, or maybe there's a set piece in there or something, because he for him to just be weak. He wasn't weak at the end of Kills, so there's something that happened between there that I'm sure Michael will show up. He doesn't have to necessarily show up in a prequel right away.
And that's my comparison to like Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. I'm from back in the day, because they were frozen in ice, right? And he was who was blind from the previous movie, but he wasn't. It was weird. But so, he's being led around. So, and he was played by Bela Lugosi. But anyway, it wasn't really Frankenstein monster anymore, right? So even though I love that movie, I just felt that way.
I feel like they've watered down Michael Myers by the end of this movie too. They took, because he was that pure evil in the very first film that the Halloween films did a pretty good job of. He's just evil. There's really no explanation for this. And then this one, they kind of watered him down. It made him kind of weak. And then like the part where you see like the flashback to his life, to Corey's life stuff, it's like, come on. It was just, there's this connection because this guy has the killer instinct like him or something. And it just, I don't know. I kind of just want him to be supernatural, no explanation for evil.
I don't think we got an explanation, but yeah.
Well, other than him seem to draw power, like that kind of explained in Halloween Kills.
His posture was getting better as he killed like, the cop and stuff. But
so he doesn't need a chiropractor; he just needs to stab more.
Exercise. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Let's give our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. Brian, you're first.
I'm gonna be generous. I'll give it a 3.
Oh, that is generous. Thank you. That's good.
Because I didn't hate it. Like I said, it's not terrible. It's a messy film. I'm anticipating a better director's cut. Because I was actually with someone who's friends with the director, and when I went to go see it, and he mentioned that there's a lot more to the mom scene when she gets it. And for some reason they truncated it to just her screaming, and I'm like, yeah, that felt chopped down. There were moments like that were just sort of, like, come on, there was something else there. I know. Favorite scene. This is hard. 3 stars. Favorite scene. That's a good one. I guess I have to go with the end. I guess I have to go with the final shot of Michael, because it was a finality to it, and I mean, he was as a kid he was my boogeyman, and over the years I got over it because I got to like the character and like the movies and understood the filmmaking of it. But I felt like they finally put him to bed. I mean, I don't think there's any coming back from that unless he haunts the machines or the cars and they make Christine out of that or something. I don't know what they're planning to do. But I would just say that final shot of Laurie being able to be the one. Laurie being the one. I was like, careful, Laurie. Her being the one to push him into the grinder and was it the car grinder, whatever they call it.
Yeah. And Peter grabbed her, man. Oh,
and for us as the audience.
Worried.
For them to not shy away and just keep the camera on there for us, the audience, to see that, I think it's a good cathartic thing. It's like, okay, that part is finally hopefully over, unless they decide to bring him back. I know she's probably not coming back. We're all getting old, so I don't know what who knows where this series is going, if we'll be around to see it. But that's my long-winded answer. The final shot of seeing him finally destroyed.
Yep.
And she made sure it was him this time.
Made sure it was him. I mean, it is a franchise, so inevitably we will get something.
Yeah, of course.
Christopher G. Moore, your score 1 to 5 and your favorite scene.
I'll probably give this a 3 as well. I mean, I don't hate it. It definitely didn't bother me as much as Halloween Kills did. Even though Halloween Kills, I think, had better kills, so maybe the title is more appropriate. But yeah, I'll give it a 3. It's still a mess of a movie. I think they should have done a better job of giving Laurie Strode a better way to end things, but I guess they had their own way of telling the story. As for favorite scene, even though I don't like the effects of the head, I do like it when his tongue is bouncing around on the record. I did actually laugh in the theater.
Making it skip, yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking, at first I was like, did they film that, using like a practical tongue? Or, I mean, I was like, no, that's got to be a CGI tongue. This is the way it was like dancing around on it. And I was like, oh, I thought I kind of wish there was more moments like that because there's a lot of the gore they kind of shied away from, like when the guy like to use the torch in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to see some of these
I wanted to see
things.
that one. Yeah, exactly.
I maybe the director's cut they show more of it because I was like, that's a kill I haven't. That's like the earlier the scene where they had they turned the head into like a pumpkin with candles in it.
Yeah,
that's like a live one with a thing, and I think it was a missed opportunity. But anyway, I'll say the bouncing tongue.
I just realized Jason Part 5, he sticks a flare in a guy's mouth. So I wonder if that's another.
There's a little too much Jason 5.
Cherry picking.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this 3.25.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to give it 3.5, but I actually am coming down after our discussion. So it's. I'm not dissatisfied. It's weird because I'm not dissatisfied with it. I'm kind of like, okay, that will work. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's this weird feeling like, okay. But it's not like, yay, right? And I wanted a yay. But I do feel like it wrapped things up. I was very satisfied with the final battle between Laurie and Michael. It led up to it, and it's fine. I don't think we needed 3 movies to get to that, but whatever. Yeah, I'm going to be toiling with this damn movie for years, trying to figure out if I like it or not. It's like really when it comes down to it, it is better than Kills, and that's the most important thing. And it doesn't have to be better than Halloween. Yeah, the David Gordon Green one. Now that we have 3 of them. Titled Halloween. So my favorite scene, I don't know why I liked it, but when they tied him onto the cop car to drive him away, and then all the town started following behind it, I don't know why that was cathartic. I felt like that's the way to do it, right? In publicly, in front of everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just end this in a quiet little scene in the basement somewhere. You need the whole town needs to be involved with this after the Kills movie, right? So maybe that's what they're after. But it just the whole thing with that, the other sheriff character pops up and goes, "This is the time to do that," right? And I was like, really? That's what but let's go. I don't know. I was kind of like, yeah, I'm going to go with that.
That other sheriff was pretty underwritten, wasn't he?
Oh my gosh, he was like, why?
Like throughout the entire series.
Why are you even there?
That could have been Corey's slot. Just give him stuff to do in the first 2 movies so we know who he is.
I wish they had. I guess, but I probably didn't have the forethought, right? It was probably.
I don't
when it came down to the 3rd one, what are we gonna do?
Well, they the one thing that people pointed out that actually the way they do the Halloween's title is the same as Halloween 3.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like let's do something batshit crazy like Halloween 3 was.
Yeah,
but that seems to be the way that they're structuring these films is like, we're on the anniversary of the original, we're on the anniversary of the second one, and let's just do the font and do them, they put more care into the pumpkin, the opening pumpkin stuff. Like
that was kind of cool though.
That was cool.
The pumpkins coming through the pumpkins.
It's a little cheesy, but because I'm so used to just the regular old school, just the pumpkin with the little, now it's like, now we have effects coming, I don't know. I got what they were going for.
Well, the thing is, like, the second one took place in a hospital, like the second Halloween film. The third one, it becomes a totally different story that we don't expect. So it's almost like they're trying to fulfill that, but I wish they just told their own story and instead of trying to be reflections of
the other ones.
Films.
Yeah.
It should have just been the Laurie Strode arc. It should have just been primarily about that. And I think they kind of lost their way,
I don't think she would have lived in that. I don't think it was realistic for her to be in that town. It was only 4 years. He was missing, presumably not dead, from his history. So, he took out an entire block worth of town, of their neighbors.
It should have been a Jaws revenge thing. She moves to their new town on a different coast. And Michael Myers, he knows how to drive, so Michael Myers finds
Moves
his
to an
way.
island or something.
Or he could have rode on the back of a bike.
She goes to New York City, and then we get Jason,
go
in the Big Apple.
Go to a high rise. Yeah, he has to either climb the stairs or take the elevator, but someone's gonna see him.
Oh my God, can you see him in an elevator? That'd be hilarious.
I think there's actually in taking shape when there was she moved to Chicago or something. There was like a Chicago set. That didn't happen.
If there's a podcast called, I think it's called Best Movies Never Made or whatever, and they talked about there was actually a Halloween script where he came back and he had to grab the first clothes, and he busted into this rock star's house and dressed in the rock star's clothes, and then he's killing people in rock star clothes. And I kind of wish we'd seen that version of that. That would have just, instead of him wearing like the garage outfit, just wearing something totally different.
Don't give David Green.
Like I said, those books are beasts. I'm like halfway through the second one, but there's so many plots that are just floating around out there that they have years and years of plots that they can just literally cherry pick, and scripts that have been pitched and scripts that have been written, and they're just sitting on the Miramax shelves, I guess, so we'll probably see a lot of those. If you've read any of them or know of them, you'll probably see some scenes from those.
Yeah. So we probably got 6 to 10 years before another Halloween movie will come out, but eventually it will.
They can do, like I said, there's that 4 years where they can do whatever they want and just slap the Halloween name on it. They're not over.
Well, they've proven they can do just anything they really want to. How many different? Look at the history of it.
But I mean, like I said, they could do a Halloween 3 now if they wanted to, and
maybe he'll show up in the sequel to Megan. Hey, you've seen that trailer?
That could easily
they got big laughs at Halloween.
Oh my God!
They could do a Halloween TV series and do like an anthology, and every season is a different Halloween story. So I think they have the ability to do something different. But I know probably about 5 or 7 years from now, they'll come out with some new revamp of it.
They can either go forward or they can just go back to those missing years, and we'll see. But I feel like that was kind of smart to just jump ahead 4 years, because now they have all this time to work with.
Yeah. So 10, 15 years from now, be Timothy Chalamet returns as Michael,
and he'd be wearing like a Chris Pine Kirk mask.
Oh my God, that'd be hilarious.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That's our review and some shenanigans at the end of Halloween Ends. We didn't get the bitch about the day and date thing. I really wasn't happy about that. Although
I think that it probably affected the box office.
Yep.
I feel like opening word of mouth probably hurt it. I don't know.
That didn't help either.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it would have hurt it if it wasn't available, because people could say, I'll just go watch it on streaming. Right. But if they had to go to theater, I think people still would have went.
I know people that canceled their tickets and just decided to watch it at home because they heard so many bad things about it. So I really think that did affect the box office.
I do. I absolutely do too. I mean, I don't mind a short window, but day and date, I think isn't. We need to get past that.
I think it was good during the pandemic, but it's kind of, we need to go back to
it's
what we had before.
All right. Well, there it is. Leave your comments down below. Let us know what the next Halloween should be for you. And
spoilers,
how many years...
this probably won't be in my top 10.
Yeah, it's not going to be my top 10 either, but it's not going to be my bottom 10, which is really, you'd think it'd be one or the other, right? All right, Brian.
It's in that messy lake in between.
Messy lake. There's a lot floating in there. But Brian, Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Always fun.
Good night. See you.
All right, let's say good night.
Good night. Good night.
See ya.
Gruesome Magazine.